Hey everybody! Happy Saturday. We're gonna see if we can get Ray. I think this is very fitting now because Marbin is Metal Band of the Month. We want some competition. Here's Ray. Boom, this might be the fastest I've ever seen. Hey Ray, it says it's adding you. You need to accept. Hey Joe. Oh my God. You're even more beautiful than I remember.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah, well, you're gorgeous. You should get that. Do you have any earbuds in your vicinity?
Oh, do you want me to put some in? Is that better?
Yeah, that would be good. So I
Cool.
don't hear myself or hear phones. Yeah. That's right. Metal Marbin. We just won Metal Band of the Month in some radio station.
Nice, because you're that sort of band that I just instantly think they're a
metal. Right. We had a vote and we were like, we couldn't believe we were nominated for Metal Band of the Month. And I was just like, okay, we have to win this. We need to like pull together and make this a reality. And it totally happened. So anyway, I told you we're gonna drink beers and talk. So I'm doing day drinking just for you, Ray.
Well, what time is it there?
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 3:02.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting an early start.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. I don't have a job, so it's okay.
Brilliant.
Man, that's okay. Last time we played was in Cruise to the Edge. We were sitting in that cafe getting shit-faced, and you were playing, a cup and a piece of paper.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And Marco Miniman came, and you were like, try this cup. And I got to say, your cup playing was much more tasteful. He was really not understanding the nature of the instrument. He was trying to do all this stuff with the cup, and you were really kind of giving us space. Me and Dani were soloing. It was some of the best cup playing I've heard in my life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think Marco, if you're watching this, which I'm certain you are, take notes.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be like some time when we dive deep into the nature of the cup and the paper. Yeah, but what do you got? What do you have going on there?
So for anyone based in London, I only drink beer with my name on it, by the way. So this one's called Gamma Ray.
That's awesome.
So this is basically the closest brewery to where I live. It's called Beavertown Brewery, and their beer is really cool. And they have like crazy artwork on their cans as well.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
man. So you guys are really crushing it, huh? How's the HAKEN life doing?
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, about a week ago, basically, we had our last show of a big European run that started kind of just after I saw you.
How long was that run?
I mean, in total, it lasted about 6 weeks, but there was like about a week off within that time. So we did like a bus tour around Europe, and then we stopped for a few days, and then we did flying shows, sort of further afield. So we did a festival in the Netherlands, we did Helsinki, Romania for the first time, Turkey for the first time.
How was that?
They were great.
Yeah,
all really good.
That's awesome.
But you interrupted me before I got to the best bit because we finished in Tel Aviv.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's like your second or third time there?
Second time, yeah.
How was it?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was because the first time we were there, it was so good. We all loved it, and I just couldn't have imagined it being any better this time round. But it was like, a step up. It was a similar sized venue actually. I think the cap is supposed to be bigger because it's like wider, but you wouldn't actually have people out in the. Do you know Barbie? It's called.
Oh yeah. I used to go to shows there when I was a kid. Yeah,
it's cool. It's a cool venue. And all the staff and like everyone who was taking care of us was great.
That's great. That's like in South Tel Aviv. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think the people over there are just super nice and super into it.
Yeah. Well, when did you start with HAKEN? Like what was the beginning?
Um, started when I was about 16. Well,
Hmm.
I kind of joined the band when I was about 16, um, either 16 or 17, and the band had technically already existed, but hadn't really like put out any music.
Hmm.
So it was shortly after I joined that we sort of finalised a couple of songs and put out a couple of songs around 2007.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it was actually through one of my best mates from school who was the keyboard player in the band at the time.
Hmm.
So he invited me along to jam, and then just kind of went from there.
That's great. So how long was it before you guys started filling up some rooms and like doing that kind of stuff? Because I met you when you were already, you know, a known band. When we were
Mm,
opening for you guys in Chicago, the room was slammed. But, you know, I didn't know the music before then, but I walked in, I was like, whoa,
yeah,
it's
that
totally
was.
packed in
I
here.
mean, I had the same response to when I heard you guys opening for us. It was like, whoa, because we'd only been to the US once before then to play
Hmm.
at Prog Power Festival. So this was actually our very first headlining tour
Oh,
show in the US. So it was quite a big deal. Like there was
anticipation for it.
a lot of anticipation for sure.
Yeah.
But we were quite lucky in the early days because like one of the first gigs we ever got was supporting Riverside
Mm.
at one of our sort of local London venues that loads of bands go through. And I can't even remember how we even got a gig like that at that time. But it felt really promising from an early stage because we got an opening slot like that. It's not really the sort of thing that a band who's starting out is going to get.
Hmm.
It's I don't know how it happened. Um, I mean, either side of that, we played plenty of our own terrible shows in London to a handful of people. It did take a while, but I think there was a good buzz from the beginning just based off of having a show like that, and then a few others that came along, like some other good support shows.
That is so profoundly different than our journey in the sense that I think maybe it's the States versus Europe, but it seems like a lot of bands stay pretty localized for a pretty long time.
Mm.
And the whole van bus tour thing doesn't start until you're a little bit later on. Did you guys do any sort of just road work in Europe, trying to line up shows and doing that in the
Yeah,
early days?
yeah. There were like one-off shows, like a handful of one-off shows. I remember I think our first time abroad was playing again at Prog Power Europe rather than Prog Power USA in the
Hmm.
Netherlands. Um, and those were the days when, yeah, we were sort of driving ourselves and were just sort of so hyped to be invited to play somewhere further
This is like
afield.
2000 what?
2009, I want to say.
Mm, yeah,
I've
a
still got the
decade
T-shirt.
ago.
Yeah, I think it was
That's something.
2009 or 2010.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I think we must have had our first album out before we played there, so probably 2010.
2010. And
Yeah,
which album did record companies and things like that started falling into place and really
yeah.
happen for you
I
guys?
I think the Mountain, the third album in that was when we actually switched to Inside Out,
Hmm.
and I don't know if it was a combination of. Well, I feel like it maybe was a combination of the music and stepping up to a much more recognised label.
Hmm.
That kind of it felt like there was a big boost in audience numbers and people getting into our music and our sort of reach on social media and stuff like that.
That's incredible. It's incredible also to be in a. We always look at it from the outside, but people that are in a style with there's some sort of organization in place to prop
Mm.
up a band, and
I mean, yeah, it's so difficult to know exactly what benefit the label has from that point of view. I don't
yeah,
think
because
you
you can't
can
juxtapose it
truly
against.
quantify it. Yeah, but
Sure.
it must have had an impact because it felt like it felt like a real step.
Hmm.
Um, that album.
And was there like a tour where you guys headed out, and all of a sudden the rooms were noticeably fuller and things were more
Um,
promoted? Was it
I
more of
don't
a
know.
gradual thing?
I think it was gradual. It's always been gradual.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's been plenty of places around Europe where we've always been really happy to be invited back, and they've always been like good good places to go back to. Like plenty of places in Germany and the Netherlands in particular. They're the sort of countries in Europe that we've played in the most outside of the UK. I mean, we've done London loads, of course, because that's our kind of hometown, or it originally was. But we haven't done a whole load of other UK stuff. At least not in the early days. We didn't.
So did you guys have
Yeah.
any crazy ass road experiences? Do you have road stories
I
that
feel like
you're
I should have prepared something.
no, you don't have to prepare something, but I think this is the difference because you guys stay in like hotels and things like that, so you don't get to be invited into the homes of the predator psychopaths.
Yeah, we
And
pretty much never did that. Yeah,
really, never.
I
Oh, you're missing
I
out.
don't think we ever really did that. Not as a band,
Hmm.
not into one person's house. No, I mean, bear in mind there's 6 of us, so that's already
Right.
tricky to juggle.
So you don't know about a lot about crackheads and the inside workings of the meth head metal
Well, I
fan.
mean, we did play in Vancouver in November, so we
Yeah,
did get a bit of a feel for that. But
that's like Walking Dead in their streets.
yeah,
They're handing out all these needles and stuff. It's just like
it's
a whole like
it's
areas of that
really
town.
really eye-opening. Yes, it's fucked. Did we talk about this a little bit on the boat?
I
No,
don't
I
think
was
so.
talking about it with someone recently.
Well, what was your
It's
experience?
bizarre. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I knew until later on that day that it was, yeah, that kind of area of town is effectively, um, like, it's what's, I was basically told that homeless people and drug addicts get put in that part of area of town
Hmm.
by whatever means, and even from other parts of the country or outside of the city,
Well, they migrate from
basically
all of
get
Canada.
bussed in.
Yeah, because it's really the only area where winter is sort of survivable outside.
Right. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and they also hand out like clean needles for people. That's a part of their
Right. I saw them hand.
shtick.
Yeah, I saw them handing out food in the sort of early evening when I was walking around just before the show. So that was pretty encouraging. But I guess the issue is just so widespread that supposedly that's the kind of easiest and most effective way of actually dealing with it.
Hmm.
And I just wasn't aware that that was a thing in a country like Canada. To be honest,
Yeah.
it was just like, yeah, strange,
Yeah, very
really
strange.
strange.
So most people who don't know this about you, but you're actually a trained tuba player
Hmm.
and have pursued it professionally, which is not what you would expect of your typical progressive metal drummer
Yeah.
in a known band. When did this come about?
I mean, that's been a thing since I don't know, since I can remember, I suppose. When it came to actually kind of studying at a formal music college in London, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to be a drummer or a tuba player, and I chose the tuba because I'd been playing it for longer, and I felt like it was only fair that the tuba got priority.
Hmm.
But I still wanted to do drums as well. I wanted to do like a kind of joint study thing. But you have to audition on one instrument. That's how it works over here. I know in some countries and cities and stuff and different music colleges you can do different things, but the tradition over here is like you specialize in one instrument and you can play other stuff if you want, but when you go to music college it's kind of all about that instrument.
Hmm.
And I didn't really fully appreciate that until I started studying at this college, this place called Guildhall, the Guildhall School of Music, and yeah, and then it just got really intense from day one. It was like, okay, you're here to be in an orchestra, and I was kind of just like, oh, I thought I was here just to play the tuba and sort of take it from there. And
It's like a career choice. You're on a path.
yeah, I'd barely done any orchestral stuff outside of just kind of my school orchestra. So the idea of kind of specializing into such a niche world as orchestral music, kind of, I don't know, I didn't give it that much thought. I just kind of did what I was told and studied super hard and practiced all day, and all the while HAKEN was doing things like we sort of made our first album in my first year studying there. So all that was happening simultaneously, basically.
How's your practice day split? I'm guessing you'd have to do quite a bit of practicing. Did the drum suffer? Or?
Drums suffered hard, yeah. I mean, my practice day was basically get up at 6, practice 7 till 10, 7 till 11.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the time it got to lunchtime, I'd kind of done most of the practice that I needed to do on the tuba, and then I'd have like a lesson or a rehearsal or just something extracurricular. But drums, I didn't have the means to practice drums because I wasn't officially a drummer at the school. I was arguing that I should be, and I wanted lessons, and for various reasons, it never kind of worked out. So the longer I was there, the more I realised that it was just going to be tuba if I was going to be studying there. And I tried to get involved in percussion ensembles and things like that, to sort of varying degrees of success. Mm-hmm. So, like I played in a samba band, for example, and I did a couple of other things. I mean, by the time I got to doing my final recital, sort of 4 years down the line, I'd commissioned a composer at the school to write me a piece that included percussion for me to play in. Mm. So it was like a series of like dances for tuba and percussion, and it was a duo or duet between me and a percussion friend of mine. But the whole piece actually started off with a percussion solo that I did, because I really wanted to just say,
this is who I am, kind of thing.
Yeah, fuck you guys. Like, I'm a drummer as well. Fuck
well, you certainly proved that.
Yeah.
So are there any tuba aspirations? Are you still keeping a part of this up, or is this something that's kind of faded?
It's really up and down, man. I mean, if you asked me this time last year, I would have told you that I was doing a trial with the London Symphony Orchestra. So I was kind of up for a potential job in that orchestra, which is totally surreal. Would you have taken that? Me. I'd have to be offered to know, you know. It's weird. It's
like hypothetically today, like if I offer you, here's a job, no? Yeah. But I mean, it seems like your job is so much more fun. You get to drink and hang out and wear what you want.
I don't know. I mean, they drink a lot in the orchestral world, but at least in this country. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't drink before a HAKEN show. Very rarely.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about a little bit about like the music. So for me, I always, whatever I was involved with, always was mostly improvised. Mm-hmm. And your guys' world seems like a kind of opposite, but I'm not even sure if that's true. Like, I guess the question,
a bit of a mixture.
In terms of drumming, how worked out do you keep things?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about our most recent music, we put out an album called Vector in October, and for me, from my point of view, everything I was playing was written out before I even recorded
everything.
Everything. Yeah. So I composed my own drum parts note for note, including ghost notes, specific symbols, stickings. You know, everything was written out, and I was reading off my own transcriptions of the music. But I feel like that's been a gradual progression from our early days of writing, where it was a little bit more freeform. I mean, as an overall composition, it wasn't, but in terms of our individual parts, there was definitely more flexibility and more space.
And you see it as an evolution or just a change?
No, I wouldn't say. Well, I'd say an evolution in some ways, because it means that now our music is kind of, I guess, has more of the approach of a classical composer.
Mm-hmm. More intention.
Yeah. So, yeah, if anything, it's de-evolution. It's regression.
It's a regression.
I don't know. I feel like for music that has so much technicality to it, and so kind of over-arranged and with so many changes, and is so complex, that the music lends itself to be composed to the nth degree.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that it should be, and that other bands who play this sort of music should do it like that, and that we're going to continue to do it like that either. I don't know.
It's an approach you take. Yeah, it's the interesting thing, I think, even with music that you improvise every night, is that your improvisations after like 10, 20, 30 nights try to clump up into compositions. Like
Sure.
you're starting to be pragmatic with the fills that work, the things that didn't work, and your body wants to recreate the sensation of the thing that worked. But the thing that worked yesterday, the attempt to remake it in an improvised context is
that
worse.
Work.
Yeah, it does not work. But yeah, there's something to be said about recreating the same kind of picture for people. So in shows, I guess for me, the thing that's hard to understand is how do you stay excited about playing something that you know in advance what it's going to be? What's the mental space for you?
Well, thankfully, I'm not the sort of, although I did go to town with my own part, at least on this latest album, you know, to the point where it was note for note, this is what it's going to be. I'm actually not that sort of person as a performer. I've never been that sort of musician.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Not to say that I'm a free spirit and I'm, you know, like all about improv. It's not really to do with that. It's more just I don't like the constraints of performing specifically the same thing note for note every night. And I've played with so many musicians over the years who are brilliant at that, and it's admirable and it's incredible that they can do that. But I think it's partly that I don't want to do it, and partly that maybe it's something to do with my focus. Like I'm just not quite focused enough. There's always like a bit of ditziness to the way that my mind works, and I'm a bit clumsy in that sense. So it's a mixture of those two things. I don't want it to be the same every night. I will try and change things as every show goes on. You know, the next performance will be a bit different for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's something that for maybe the non-musicians listening is a little bit harder to understand, but differentiating in real time the things that are essential for a composition and your space to actually make decisions that won't create some sort of tumbling effect in the band. Yeah.
I think space is a good word to use though, because unfortunately most of our music just doesn't have space in that sense. I don't think it is, even if it isn't necessarily as composed as our most recent album, there's already so much going on regardless of whether you're going to play it differently every night. There isn't kind of, there's very little breathing space. And yeah, there's not much space for me to just kind of groove out. It's just kind of, it's just like, technical changes, time signatures.
Right. You guys have a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like that. But yeah, that's, now I think also the shift towards composition, do you think that has to do with the fact that you guys are not living in the same continents anymore? Like it seems like that that idiom of like sending, like how does the music get written? I'm not sure how the process would look like.
I think that's got a big part to play. The fact that we don't have the sort of luxury of being able to meet up, all six of us.
You meet up just for tour, right?
Pretty much. I mean, Vector was not. We'd never performed any of the songs in full live until after it was released.
Wow.
So it's quite risky in a way, but also, I suppose we've been working towards doing that. Not necessarily we were aiming to do it, but it's been a gradual process of doing that sort of work together as a band that, to a certain extent, we probably knew most of it would be fine anyway, but you just never know really until you play it live.
Well, you don't know what it's going to feel like. That's the biggest factor. Not if you're going to be able to execute it. It's like how standing there in front of a room full of people.
Exactly, yeah. And one of the other issues is because our music is so technical, we're not very motivated to learn it and play it together while we're writing it, because, you know, if we come back again, or, you know, basically the arrangement might change, or you might decide to scrap a whole section because for whatever reason it doesn't work with the arrangement or doesn't work with the vocals, and then we've wasted hours, days, weeks practicing this stuff to play together as a band when we find out that that's not actually what's going to be on the song.
Yeah, it's funny.
So,
We're the opposite kind of band. Like
yeah,
the way Marbin does it is we write the song, we go tour for a year maybe, and then we make the album. But the song keeps changing live
yeah,
every night. We get in the van. Usually, me and Dani love each other, so we're like, we were great, but you two, and then we start telling the bassist and drummer like what they need to do, and then changing sections, omitting
yeah,
things, changing chord progressions, changing
yeah.
melodies, and things take shape. And then we wait till the song settles, like 7-8 months into it, and then we make a record. But our records take a day or two in the studio, and
Right.
that's
And
it.
that's it.
There's nothing
Yeah,
to do, because
yeah.
that we've played the song dozens
That's
and hundreds of times sometimes.
yeah. That's such a nice way to do it.
Nobody. It's becoming the rare kind of approach these days. I think
Yeah,
the whole idea, especially with record labels, is they want you to make an album, go promote the album. Touring is a means of promoting in a way too, not
yeah,
just of gathering the money, but yeah. So
yeah. I mean, the band that we've just been touring with over here and also in the US, Bent Knee, they, as far as I'm aware, they have the same process, or at least they did for the latest album. So they were workshopping. I don't know if they weren't workshopping the whole album when they toured with us, but they were workshopping songs and they were changing their set every night, all the way through the US tour. And then soon after they finished the US tour with us, then they recorded most of the album. They then continued to tour with us in Europe, and then when they got back again home, they finished the album.
wow.
So they've got a similar approach, I think, to you guys in that way.
Yeah. It's everything. All these micro decisions affect what comes out so much. It's so funny. At the end of the day, it's just people
Yeah,
and ideas, and how you
yeah.
put it together is what you end up with. Man. So you're in London. Are you involved with the local music scene there at all? What do you do when you're home?
Mostly in terms of work, mostly teaching now, because
Teaching
as I
drums.
say, mostly teaching drums. Yeah. As I said, I was doing this trial with the London Symphony Orchestra. I was doing sort of every now and again some other freelance work with orchestras and different chamber groups and things like that. But the busier HAKEN gets, the kind of less reason I have to push my tuba playing, which is kind of sucks in a way, sucks in many ways. But I'm happy as long as I'm busy and I'm playing music, essentially.
Yeah.
So just in order to keep myself financially afloat, I teach.
Yeah. I do the same thing. Yeah.
That's mostly it.
Do you
I'm
like
working
it?
on sometimes I don't. Sometimes it feels like I'm just there to, just clock watching. Because it really depends. I teach all manner of people. I teach young kids. I teach adults. One day with one kid might be great. See them again the next week, and they've done no practice, and it's just like an absolute slog, and you just want to go.
Oh wow.
So
Can I give you a tip?
yeah,
So in 2009, I was hired by before Marbin started touring. I worked at a music store with teaching little kids. I hated it. It was my nightmare. It was my day of hell. And then I had this realization that none of them. It was half-hour lessons, and none of them knew how often I go to the bathroom. So I'd go to the bathroom every half hour and stand there for 7 minutes, and then come back. And my half-hour lessons were 23 minutes.
okay, that's your tip.
It's amazing, dude. Just go to the bathroom, stand there for 5 minutes, look at the clock.
Wow, man, you're so inspirational.
I know.
I wish I had you as a teacher.
Yeah. So I mean, you just shaved off a good 15% of your job,
Yeah,
and then you don't have to. For me, it was essential. I was suffering so much,
yeah,
but yeah, teaching adults though, it is nice to get to talk about, to formalize to yourself how you think about time, technique, right?
yeah.
I would assume. How do you think about time, about rhythm?
Wow. How do I think about it? I mean,
In terms of just linguistically, I'm assuming like Western notation is the thing that
Yeah, I
pops
guess
into.
so. I think of it. I guess I think of it very classically. My tuba teacher at Guildhall was incredibly rhythm oriented, so he had a phrase, which that the other HAKEN guys know. And if anyone watching is aware of this guy, his name is Patrick Harold. He's the old tuba player of the LSO, and he's a phenomenally inspirational teacher. And anyone in the classical music world in this country will have heard his name. And he had a phrase. He has a phrase. He's not. He hasn't gone anywhere. And his number one phrases, and he's got a very deep voice. In time, in tune, with a good and appropriate sound.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's great.
That's his kind of number one phrase. But the first thing is in time, and he drilled into me the importance of rhythm. Just every lesson. He didn't care about the sound you made or whether it was in tune or not. If it wasn't in time, it had to be in time first, and then you work from there. And he's not a drummer. He's not a percussionist. He doesn't know anything about that sort of thing. He just cares about rhythm.
Well, that's the universality of music. I mean, I always tell people that the musical piece, when people learn phrases or licks, right, and construct themselves this way from transcribing, they're dealing with pre-made musical Legos. And those Legos can make they're fast ways of figuring out some music, learning licks, but they're organizations of pitch, rhythm, and timbre. And if you spend some time asking yourself what's inside the Lego, breaking it into pieces, it always flakes into three main cuts. And those cuts are harmony, rhythm, and timbre, which is good rhythm, you know, good note, and good and an appropriate sound. It's exactly that. In tune.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say that's a universal thing, and that's just a given for music, because I know so many musicians who do not put rhythm first; they put something else first.
Well, universally and sounding good. I know those people too. They suck. That's the problem. It's like an antidote for sucking.
Yeah,
is putting rhythm first.
I can't get it out of my head now. I'm convinced that he's exactly right, and I don't think I'll ever have another sort of opinion on the matter. It's rhythm first, everything else later.
Well, if you ask yourself, me and Dani always talk about this, but if you relate those three elements in music to questions in the English language, then in music, rhythm is when and where things happen. Pitch and harmony is what happens, and timbre is how things happen. So without a strong sense, a deep sense of when to do something, things can't be right, because that's that's the space we draw in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it becomes. So yeah, that's some deep stuff. So how do you? What does your practice look like nowadays? If you had 8 hours to practice drums with not a worry in the world and all the phones broke down, what would you do?
If I had 8 hours, I would start off. If I had 8 hours, I would start off by doing a very gentle full body stretch.
Nice.
Because I've got 8 hours, and 8 hours is a silly amount of time to spend practicing in most cases, but sometimes it's necessary. I think there's too much emphasis placed on a length of time practicing. That was one of the things, again, that bugged me about music college, is that people would say, you need to practice for this length of time, or people would ask you, how long have you practiced for today? And I would say, I don't know. I've practiced as much as I need to practice. I haven't really been looking at the clock. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So,
no, that's on topic. You're saying that focused practice is more important than lengthy practice.
Yeah. I think as well, unfortunately, I don't think I'd have a very good practice session if you gave me 8 hours and all the phones were broken and nothing was working. Because I wouldn't be focused enough. I focus more when I've got half an hour here, 10 minutes there, 20 minutes there. Then I'll do better practice.
Really?
And I think I think a lot of musicians would agree, the ones that I've spoken to anyway. But yeah, just super basic, gentle warm-ups. I don't, to be honest, have an amazing technical vocabulary as a drummer. I think I understand technical music, and I have a
Certainly play it.
Yeah, but as an actual drummer, I don't know if my drumming is as technical as the overall music itself.
Mm-hmm.
I would like it to be better, and that's what practice is for. Um, but I guess part of it does come from this dual instrument thing. I feel like if I didn't bother doing the tuba thing and went to music college to be a drummer, I'd be 10 times the drummer I am. But I don't know if that would necessarily have had maybe any better or worse a musician.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
You don't get to juxtapose your life against your fantasy.
Fuck. Yeah. I've been trying to get into more method-based practices recently because as a drummer, I've been mostly self-taught, at least for like the last 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my drumming practice and development has just been through the vehicle of HAKEN, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
I haven't. So the kind of method thing, following a book, a particular approach that someone has done in a much more comprehensive manner and a step-by-step process. Those kinds of things are things that I'm starting to get more into now, because I just feel like there's so much more that can be accessed for me as an instrumentalist. So I'm trying to get more into that. So I'd probably spend some time doing that sort of thing, just some time jamming out, some time practicing HAKEN stuff.
Who would you say some of your like favorite monster drummers in history are?
Monster drummers in history.
The people that's not just appreciating, but like you listen to them and you have an emotional response, like fuck, the tear your head off kind of thing.
Well, in history, as in kind of drummers that have been around for a while.
Well, since living or dead, I mean, since the invention of the drum set, last 120 years.
It's too many. Well, the first guy that I thought fuck about was Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of still think that, even though there's plenty of people who I've told about Nico McBrain who are kind of almost surprised, maybe, because perhaps he's not as extrovertly technical and impressive as a whole host of other drummers I could have mentioned. But he still kind of gets me.
Yeah. Well, there's he activates that music. It's he's driving it.
Yeah. I mean, just like the crazy stuff that he does with 1 foot alone, when plenty of other drummers have to play that stuff with a double bass pedal, that kind of thing.
Those galloping rhythms.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I haven't been keeping up to date with Maiden at all in recent years, but he was the guy who I tried to emulate originally.
Really?
Yeah, and then I discovered Dream Theater, which is probably plainly obvious. That I then wanted to be Mike Portnoy for a bit. I wanted to be Gavin Harrison. I guess in more recent years, Matt Garsker from Animals as Leaders. He's just, I feel like he's the full package plus about another 57 packages of a drummer. He's just kind of, feel like he's capable of anything he wants to do. And that just makes me, I'm just so excited by that. It's just such an inspiring, totally free, mind-blowingly technical, rip your head off drummer. He's got to be up there, and I think he's destined for years and years of greatness. And
they're doing really well.
Yeah. I mean, they are, but him in particular, for me, I think he's just
monster player,
a standalone, incredible person. On the drums. Yeah.
How about anybody before the 70s, like pre that, like from maybe like any jazz drummers that touched you in funny places? Who touched you,
Any
Ray?
any jazz drummers that touch me in funny places? Um, my expertise in classic jazz drummers is probably not as good as I would like,
Hmm.
but Max Roach has got to be one for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I feel like that's an area that, I think I was telling you a little bit about this on the boat maybe, but
Mm.
um, my jazz chops are virtually non-existent, and although I listen to a lot of jazz,
Hmm.
um, I, I really feel like I want to be playing that music, and yeah, it's becoming more and more apparent. I think that um, playing rock and metal oriented music is just kind of limiting without
Limiting.
though without without that kind of background, like Matt Gasker, for example, Gavin Harrison, those two drummers who I noted. Um, you can put them in a jazz setting and they
Hmm.
will absolutely destroy it, because it's kind of so much is part of their um, technical background, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
There's been the strangest thing. First of all, the drum set itself is like I have these like mushroom trippy moments when I just think about how my music has a drum set, and it's such an like such a strange instrument to have this, skin that's tuned to a pitch. It's like G G G G, like no matter what you're playing, and we
right.
just like accept it. And a guy that's playing all this different instrument, it's a brand new invention, just took over completely. So that in itself sometimes trips me out when I just look at your instrument and see what it's doing, and I'm like, what? Why is this in the music? And it's like, it's awesome, but it's such a strange thing to be at the center of everything now. But the strange thing that happened right around the 60s, around this Beatles thing, is the strange death of swing. Of as when Cole Porter would write a song on the piano, sing some lyrics, or any of these guys from the tens to the 50s, this triplet subdivision, like, whatever, it's a pop song, but that's what was in their mind. That was this
Mm,
implicit background
yeah.
that was always there in the mind of all the population, and then it just switched to this straight meter with a
Mm,
backbeat. And most, like, you guys have songs in six, they're more like but
yeah, yeah.
everything is not really swung anymore.
It's rigid. Yeah,
And
yeah,
this thing happened to time everywhere, like this huge shift, and I don't know why or how.
yeah.
Right? Isn't that strange?
It is strange. Yeah, it's so strange.
Yeah, it's like the whole
It's
the whole world changed underneath us, and nobody can pinpoint the moment it happened, right? But
mm,
I don't know. It's like this period between the '60s, Coltrane, and all these guys, and
mm,
into the '70s disco. It's just unrecognizable.
yeah, yeah. It's weird. I guess it used to be something that people would just inherently be able to feel, and now it's something that you have to teach people how to feel and understand. And it's like, yeah, it's strange. It's no
Hmm.
longer an inherent thing for most people.
No, not at all. Very strange. So, how does the writing process look now with you guys? What do you, when you have an idea, what do you do?
When we have an idea, what do we do? Well, you mentioned earlier, or you kind of suggested that the way we do things now is all separate. It's not entirely like that. Some of us will meet up and we will work through ideas regularly
Hmm.
together in a room. But yeah, it's never as a full band. It's never with like the kind of production that we'd like. It will be like me at Richard's place and I'll be sort of hitting an electric kit, and then after 20 minutes I'll be like, well, this sounds shit because I'm hitting an electric kit and I can't really hear what I'm doing. So I'm just going to tell you what I think, and then he'll be playing his guitar and think, oh yeah, I can't play that bit. So now I'm just going to program it in. So, um, it's a whole mixture of stuff. Um, it, sometimes we'll come up with those ideas together. Sometimes we'll come up with ideas separate from each other, and we'll just share them through emails. And if for example I've come up with something and I don't know where to go with it, I'll just throw it at one of the other guys and say, can does anyone want to take this? And hopefully someone will volunteer and take it to the next stage. And that's one of the really nice things about working so collaboratively now, is that
you get a file back and it sounds like,
yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it's well, I'm intrigued to see how we do things on the next album. I mean, I've already been kind of, basically since we got back last week, I've been on my computer most days just working through ideas, checking through old ideas from Vector as well, and because there was so much leftover material. There often is from albums, but there was in particular from Vector because it was that bit shorter as well. It's a much shorter album for us, so we had loads of leftover material.
How short was it?
45 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good length. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
It goes by quick, and it's just like, it's nice.
You wouldn't believe how many heads it turns in the prog world, though.
Really?
45 minutes? Are you kidding me? Why isn't it the full length of time that you can fit on a CD?
Oh man.
Because that's what music is.
Yeah, our first album was like, I think 36. Goes by in a second.
We're not allowed to do that. We have to do at least 45 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
The label?
Yep.
Now, how does the planning work? This is the thing that I don't understand about not being like completely independent. Let's say you want to go on tour. You just be like, HAKEN wants to go on tour. You write them, or they tell you you're going on tour. What kind of deliberation is there around the plan? Like, how does that look?
It was pretty good. It was the most comprehensive it's been for this album so far, to the point where we had a US tour booked, a European tour booked, and then sort of other stuff penciled in way before the album came out. Whereas in the past, so from Affinity back, we released an album and then it was like, okay, we should tour. So it's kind of mostly down to us and our booking agents. So we've got an agent in Europe and an agent in the US, and they'll be able to tell us what they think is the best kind of period to tour, based on when the release happens. So for example, we usually tour Europe first and then we do the US, whereas this time around we toured the US first because our agent said, oh, your album's coming out in October. Oh, the US market likes it when a band tours straight after their album comes out, and your album is coming out in October, which is a good time to tour. So we should book a tour now for this time, and then worry about the European tour earlier this year, because the European market.
So it's you versus the agent, not the record company is not involved with the tour booking directly?
No, not really. I mean, I'm sure we give them a heads up about it, but they don't really have much of a say that I can think of.
So what's your interaction like with the record company? What, other than they're releasing the record and doing what? Like, this is the curious thing. I mean, I know it's like they're sending it to the record store.
I'm sure they do so many things, and to be honest, actually, our relationship with Inside Out has been growing from strength to strength, I think, since our first album. Yeah, so I think I mentioned to you, right? So we've got we although we haven't sort of made it official, I know some bands, and you see articles about bands re-signing onto a label and that sort of thing, but over the last few months we have kind of made a new contract with Inside Out, and we've managed to get more legal support to kind of just help us work out what the fuck is going on, because none of us have a clue, apart from Ross maybe, who is much more on top of that sort of thing. So we've been working towards just getting a more mutually beneficial arrangement between us and the label. The label have been super open about it. They seem to be quite a small label. We only tend to deal with max like 4 people, mostly only ever 1 or 2 different people who we're getting to know better and better every year, every tour. They'll come to a few of the shows. We'll always have a meeting, maybe at some point between tours and leading up to another album. So
you said they seem like a small label? I thought they're like the biggest
yeah,
metal label there is.
Perhaps. Well, they're not a metal label.
Well, I mean, rock label. I don't
But
know
in the prog world, before we joined,
yeah.
Inside Out was our kind of goal.
Mm-hmm.
It was, we need to go on Inside Out because they had so many bands
They're number one
that we were so into. And we did. We tried numerous times, and they told us numerous times to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, they said fuck on.
What brought the fuck on in your mind?
Well, supposedly it was down to this guy who was kind of managing us at this time, who I won't go into too much detail with, unless you want me to drink a few more beers, and then I'll go into loads of detail.
Loads. Bring it on. Let's do a shot.
But yeah, this guy who will remain nameless likes to think that he's responsible for getting us the deal, and I think he is partly responsible. We got to give him some credit, but I would like to think it was inevitable anyway. I would hope, because from the first album we did with them onwards, it's just been going from strength to strength, and we've been getting such a good vibe from them that we're a priority act, and they'll do whatever it takes, sort of thing, within their means. So, yeah, it's. I think things are good. They're definitely better than they were.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the help they give you, it's more like giving you a nice advance so you can make the album the way you need to, and have the nice studios and people mixing it.
Yeah. It's perhaps not, or it hasn't been as much as we'd like, or can really make a whole lot of. But again, that was probably one of the main things that we've improved upon with the new contract.
And how many albums are you signed for?
We were initially signed for 4.
4?
And because we've done 2, Vector was then the 3rd. So we technically would have only had 1 left. But this new contract basically means we have to do another one again. So it's...
Mm-hmm. So you're signed for 2 more.
I think it's technically 3 from Vector, because that's kind of when it started. So yeah, 2 more.
Gotcha. And is there like a time limit on the space you need to take between albums and those kind of contracts? Can you do like a Miles Davis thing and just like record 6 in a day? Be like, here you go.
Fuck, if only we could do that. I think there kind of is. I don't think it's strictly written down, but I think they have an idea of when is good. I think you can't release another album within the same sort of 12 to 16, 18-month period, maybe.
Wow. So an obligation like that for 4 albums is an obligation for 5-6 years.
Well, I don't think they would strictly rule it out, though. If we wanted to, or let's say we wanted to release like a 2-part album, or but 2 albums, like a double album or something, and we had an actual strict idea for, we want this, and then we, like a few months later we want to do this, they probably would have been open to it. I don't think we've really pushed that. So I just get the impression, because we do want to get the next album done quite soon, they did say, not too soon, please. But they didn't actually say, you're not allowed, you can't do that, you're breaching contract. They were just like, it would make more business sense if you spent a bit more time.
Business model is amazing. It's like an abusive relationship that turns into a marriage, and then you can make it into a good marriage somehow.
Yeah, that's what being in a band is as well.
Yeah, exactly. He keeps fucking me and hits me sometimes, but I like him. And then, like, after a while, it's like, it's like, I love him. It's just like, that's quirky.
Wow, that was me thinking I was painting a really good picture. And really, I just looked like an abused partner.
Well, I mean, you guys get to be famous musicians. I mean, you play full. You're not abused in that sense, but it's like, it's wonderful. It's the way to do it. And I think you guys are absolutely like, negotiating your way into something very, very good. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the people watching are in bands that like just fantasize about signing a piece of paper But there's all kinds of pieces of paper you could be signing, and
Yeah.
and also for a lot of bands, they only have 3 or 4 records in them. So if you don't keep growing and keep making great music, you're just they're gonna have your best years, and
Yeah, exactly.
it's a lot like that in abusive relationship now that I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, from our point of view, just getting an offer from Inside Out back before we released The Mountain was so exciting for us that we did just sign on kind of almost blind.
Yeah.
We did read the contract, but we didn't fully understand it, and we didn't really get any legal support. We just kind of went for it, and it seemed okay on paper, so we just did it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously for you guys, it's a success story. I mean, it's really, you guys are doing awesome. Playing for loads of people, and, music is great. Everything's great. So that's very reassuring. Everything's just wonderful. So the living situation, a few of you guys are in London, and a few are where?
So Diego is in Mexico. Connor is in the US, in Indiana, in the middle of nowhere, as I've said to him many times. But it's a very nice middle of nowhere, and he's got a lovely little setup, and he's very family oriented, and I think he just loves it. So
how did you get Connor?
We got Connor by basically publicizing that we're doing a YouTube audition for a bass player, and that anyone can audition, but really we would prefer it if they were based in the UK, preferably London. And we did. We got plenty of interests, loads of auditions, mostly from the UK, I guess, although from kind of Europe as well, and must have had a handful from the US. And Connor just absolutely smashed his YouTube audition.
In what way? I think a lot of people that are doing auditions would like to know what makes that difference.
We basically made it a 2-part audition, in that the first part you have to execute what we kind of thought was one of our most technically challenging songs. So that's kind of the technical side out of the way. This is how you play our music. And the second part was the musical side, which was much more important, I guess. And it was, here is another song of ours. It's very simple on the whole for us, and we're going to take out the bass line entirely, and you're going to put your own bass line in. And he just absolutely smashed it.
In essence, that's the key, right?
Yeah, he made it his own. And he made it his own whilst also making it ours, and just giving that whole song a different dimension just by adding his own voice. And it's simple. Like it's not like he did anything nuts. He played really tastefully, and there was a really good technical aspect to it, but at the end of the day, it was just something that I definitely wanted to listen to. And I was so kind of just felt like so complimentary for someone to really kind of do that with our music. It was great.
I relate to that completely, because I think like the way I would put it is understanding the aesthetic of a band.
Yeah.
And once you understand it, when a few people get together and develop music, there's a sort of taste that goes into it, and inside that space there are right and wrong choices, and it's a space, and not anything flies. So when you're putting a new part in it, it has to always serve some sort of thing that's not really your own, but it just exists with from the people. So it's almost intuitive. Like you had like some sort of enhancing effect on the music through what he was putting in it. So how was it was all YouTube videos, and then he flew to London to meet you?
Well, so we contacted him after seeing his video saying, look, we'd really like you to come to London and do a live audition. So we made a short list of 5 or 6 players, and he didn't really seem like he could quite sort of trust or believe our sort of advances on him, basically, to the point where he was just like, Are you sure? Because I've never flown before. I've never been out of the country. I think he'd been to Canada, to be fair, but and we had to kind of. I mean, it didn't take much, but it took a couple of emails to just say, look, we really want you to fly over and do this live audition. So then he did. And imagine having never been on a flight ever before to then be on a long haul flight to the UK. Just I can't personally, especially by yourself at that age.
How old was he?
Been,
right out of college,
I think he was 21. He hadn't technically finished. He was doing a jazz degree at.
He studied with our bassist. They were in the same class.
Of course, yeah.
We all get our bassists from Indiana.
Yeah, that's how it works, right?
Yeah, we gotta get bassists from Indiana.
Yeah, it's right in the heart of the country, right where the bass needs to sit. In the
Exactly. Felt but not heard.
Yeah, I can't imagine what sort of sensory craziness would have been going on to be crazy. From Indiana to London. It's just I don't know.
Yeah,
and then to just come in and without kind of much of an introduction or any kind of ice breakingness, just all right, let's play 2-3 of our songs, and then you can go. As in, together with us, we just he had to then rehearse. He had to practice. I think 2 songs maybe, and that was it. It was like 20 minutes of his time for all that traveling.
And was it clear? It was just like.
I thought it was clear from the YouTube audition. It didn't. I didn't even need him. I mean, it was nice to meet him, but he only further made his place known and
it's so
secured his spot.
This thing with musical ability and understanding aesthetic is something that people so often overlook. We had previous drummers, 2 drummers ago, we had this drummer who was an incredible technical player, really into Mark Juliana and a lot of the modern guys, and he could play all this shit, and he was one of those dudes that would practice all day long, very complicated stuff, but he wanted to put a lot of that stuff in the music whenever he felt like it. So a lot of the stuff that would just kill on Instagram for a minute or would be a great drum kind of video doesn't fit every situation. And that's really the problem too of becoming too much of an individual that's very extreme. You have the situation you can thrive in becomes narrower and narrower and narrower, and you're going to have to give up a lot of those things you've developed, check them at the door if you want to fit inside a band, because that aesthetic is shared by other people.
I think that's where someone like myself is maybe quite fortunate, because I've just been doing it since I was a teenager, and I've kind of developed the aesthetic along with the other members of the band. And it's like, it's something that I've created for myself in that sense.
So your ideas automatically kind of are suited to this kind of playing because they emerged from it.
Yeah, it's like I've done very little playing in other contexts, very little. I'm doing more and more of it as the years go on, which is great, and it's partly down to kind of the name of HAKEN and me being in the band, that it kind of helps to be able to then play with other people. But if it weren't for that, I'd just be kind of just stuck in this one band, just playing in the way that I play, and that's just that is the aesthetic.
Yeah, man. So with this thing of like wanting to explore jazz, that you were mentioning, like
man,
what?
that's how it is, It's simple as that. Just want to learn a new language.
Yeah, I watch Buddy Rich videos. That's my dude.
Okay.
I can't get enough of Buddy Rich. He fucks me up. Like I just watch him play, and it seems infinite. I can't explain it. It's just it's just that drumming pushed to the extreme in my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever hear those Buddy Rich tapes? Do you know what those are?
Buddy Rich tapes.
It's when he's the players in his band snuck like a tape recorder on the bus, and they're recording him flipping out on them on the
Oh
bus, just
shit! No way.
screaming,
Oh
like,
god.
"You're gonna play for me like this, you bunch of fucking losers!" Like, it's like, how dare you play for me like this?
Oh
I played
god.
with and he keeps talking to the saxophone players, and he accuses them of, like needing, what do they call it? Like sonic. You need sonic reinforcement. Nobody
Oh
can
my
even
god.
hear your ass. It's like
Oh
talking about
god.
microphones. It's like how in his day, it's like, without
Easy.
microphones, you'd be nothing.
Yeah, it's easy for a drummer to say, isn't it? Fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Rob Milan wants to tell you that your patterns are sexy.
Is that
If
is
you
that the
ever
one? Is that the one and only comment we've had?
No,
in
no,
this
we've
entire...
had tons. That one just kind of jumped up into my eyes because
Oh, okay.
I thought that you'd love it, that people think your patterns are sexy.
I think
And
Rod Milan is sexy.
yeah, he said, "We love you, Ray. When's HAKEN releasing a gypsy jazz album?" Uh, somebody wrote, "Indiana's the center of the universe." But
For
I'm
some
sure they're,
people.
yeah, for some people, for Connor. So what's the deal with Connor? He's not going to move from Indiana. He doesn't want to go to London, hang out with you boys.
Oh god. I think he just loves it there. He loves his home.
Huh.
I think initially I don't know if he was trying to give us a false idea or if he genuinely kind of thought it could happen. But I tried to encourage him to think about moving over and maybe like using like transferring his degree. I think he was also thinking about it. I think maybe I got the idea from him, transferring his degree to a music college in London as a kind of means to then live in London as a student. But then for whatever reason that didn't materialise, and I think ultimately he just wanted to stay home. That's just where he wants to be.
So he didn't just go to school there. He's from there. He's living around his family.
Yeah, yeah. He lives just an hour outside of Indianapolis, I think. Yeah.
Good old country boy.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing, dude. Yeah. Well, Ray, I mean, I've taken up enough of your time. I just want to thank you for being here. Tell everybody you're the shit, and we love your band. And when are you guys coming to the States again? When can we hang out?
We have no plans to be in the States again this year.
Really? Any chance you're going on the boat?
Big chance we're going on the boat.
Really? We're going on the boat.
Oh. The boat's going to be like...
We're doing both boats. End of March.
Both boats?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Are you doing 70,000 tons of metal now that you're the metal band of the month?
No, we're not doing that. We're doing Cruise to the Edge and then On the Blue on the same boat after. So it's like 12 days instead of like the thing.
Shit.
Yeah, but Cruise to the Edge this year is going to Honduras and Belize.
I know.
Yeah. So.
And it's a totally different time of the year. It's like end of March, beginning of April.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not allowed to say anything.
Okay.
But as far as I'm aware, there is a good chance we will be
Good
there.
chance. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I think, unofficially, we will probably be around that part of the world for a bit longer than just a cruise if we are coming for the cruise.
So it'll be like a tour, maybe, if unofficially things materialize in an unofficial way.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is official until it's official.
Yeah, that's true. Dude, I gotta tell you, right? Usually I spend like every one of these like things I've done for the first 10 minutes trying to get somebody on the air. And you're like, your intelligence is like 40 points, at least your IQ is 40 points higher than a lot of these like very famous fusion musicians that like have battled the Facebook Live feature in front of everybody and just hung me out to dry.
I've spent all my life wanting to be a fusion musician, and now I've just been told I'm better than.
Yeah, exactly. You should have worked for Apple or Facebook or something like that, because you just figured it out like that. It was very.
I'm sure you
fast.
told me in our Facebook messages that this was going to be an Instagram Live thing. I'm 99% sure, and I'm going to check back through the messages.
I would never have said that.
Because I posted all about that, and people watching this are going to be furious.
Oh, well, I'll send you a link.
And then we ended up putting it on Facebook.
I'll send you a link. They can watch. They can rewatch it. What?
Okay.
Facebook is inferior to Instagram?
Big time.
What are you, 17? What the fuck are you talking about? You like your content? Dude, Instagram does nothing but makes you think that, like, you need to have a six-pack and more chops.
Yeah, that's why it's better.
Yeah. 1 minute music content. Don't you guys have like 8-minute songs?
Facebook just gives me miserable political content. It's just
How
depressing.
dare you attack Zuckerberg on his own platform? Well, wait a second. He owns the other one too. There's no good place to attack Zuckerberg. Yeah.
He's safe.
He's safe from us. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Marbin is not an Instagram band. We're a Facebook band. This is how. Yeah. We have like 240,000 people on Facebook and like 5,000 on the Instagram.
Don't need any of that, mate. All right, that's fine.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a millennial. Be like, lots of people like our ass. It's because Dani keeps taking those butt pictures.
I haven't seen any of those.
Well, that's why our Instagram page is so weak.
How's his little tiny thing?
Very cute. Her name is Alma. Just had her.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just trying to keep her alive, and hopefully he makes it. We're going on tour in like 3 weeks, so his wife is very brave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. How long are you going on tour for? This is my turn now.
We're going on tour for like 3.5 weeks. We're going to Texas, Oklahoma, all that deep south.
Okay.
Home of the Jews.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. Gonna play some tunes.
Oh yeah.
Making an album right after that. So
who's playing cup and paper for you?
Definitely not Marco Miniman, dude. We were talking so much shit right after that. I remember like walking Dani back. I'd be like, this fucking guy's like in the Aristocrats and all this shit, but like he fucking blew on that thing. He's trying to do like this polyrhythm. It's like not listening, not leaving space. Like what is this thing like the back and forth with the cup? Everybody knows you just go down with the cup.
Everybody knows. Fucking hell. I've seen enough cup players to know.
Yeah,
I've had
exactly.
enough cup lessons.
Yeah.
I know all about that shit.
Last thing we need is another cocky cup player that thinks he could just
hell.
like fucking shit all over us with his cup.
Shit in the cup and then shit all over us.
Right. That's awesome. Well, man, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure.
Hopefully we'll do it again.
And we've spent all this time and I've had a light directly behind my head. I feel like
you look like a saint.
On my screen. I was going to say, for everyone else, it probably looks like a big halo.
Yeah, you look like a saint. Saint of drumming. Patron saint of Prague.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's what I aspire to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, thank you again. We'll see you next time.
Cheers, Dani.
Cheers.
All right, see you, mate.
Bye-bye.